Welcome back to the Rock Your Soul podcast. I'm Nichole Eaton, author of the book Rock Your Soul, The Down-to-Earth Guide to Mastering Your Mind and Intuitive Therapist. And I'm here to remind you of your power and that it's absolutely possible to live a life you're obsessed with. Let me show you how. I am somebody who is super passionate about growth and personal growth and self-care and taking care of myself and making sure I am the best person and version of myself that I can possibly be. That is something that I'm deeply passionate about and it's super important. This podcast is going to be focused on growing your life and growing yourself and the things that maybe you need and things that I've realized that I needed to become the best version of myself that I can be. So we're going to talk in this podcast about 3 things that you might be missing in your personal growth process that you might not even realize is important. I went this weekend to Orlando for a Growth Now conference that Justin Shank put on. I'm not somebody who goes to a lot of business conferences. I'm not really sure why. I work from home. I have kids. It's busy. It's hard to get a sitter to go someplace for an overnight. But I'll tell you what, I walked away from this conference and I'm like, oh shit, this was so good. My cup feels so full. Like I felt so fulfilled and so on purpose and so intentional. And 3 things were highlighted for me this weekend that are just vital to personal growth. And some of them I nail, I do well. Some of them I was like, I need to get my ducks in a row. So I wanted to share everything I learned this weekend with you guys, and not everything, but the 3 main takeaways from this weekend of how to grow as a person and making sure that you have these handful of things locked in. Number 1, now this is really interesting for me because I'm somebody who has been pretty hyper independent. I have lived on my own since I was 17 years old. I had kids young. I've always kind of just done what I wanted and moved around. And although I've always supported other people, I don't know if I've done a good job at receiving support. So the first thing you need when you're growing as a person is community. There is such a thing as hyper independence being a bit of a trauma response. And so if you're somebody who doesn't let people help you, nor do you ask for help, this is your sign to be intentional about who is a safe person to ask for help? How can I let myself be supported? This might be something as simple as like hiring somebody to help you with the lawn or clean your house. This might be something as simple as when somebody offers to take your kid for an hour, you say, okay, that would be great. Giving yourself permission to accept help from the people around you or putting yourself in a situation where you're inviting in help intentionally isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you are if we think about communities in the past, it took a community to raise a child. There's still plenty of communities around the world who focus on several groups of people coming together to support you, to support your kids in their growth and their process. And I think that's something really important that I haven't been utilizing. And there's also this level of who's in your community. Do you only have people who are like, you can do no wrong, cheer you on? Do you only have people who are critical? Do you only have, what types of people are you surrounding yourself with? One of the things that Justin Shank brought up is that everybody needs a bruiser. And so obviously there's cheerleaders, there's people who bring you hope, but something I realized they don't really have is somebody who is a bruiser, somebody who is questioning why you're doing something, not necessarily in an unsupportive, critical way, but just to make sure you're clear. There was so much clarity I gained this weekend by getting really clear about what is my mission. My mission is to make you guys feel empowered to change your life, to do better in your life, to feel better in your life by making powerful decisions for your best and highest good. It's for you to fully step into your power. And how is my messaging? Are there things I'm not doing in my business and why am I not doing them? And having somebody kind of pin me in the corner and ask me those questions was so beneficial because as much as I don't like constructive criticism and as much as I feel like I'm a good person to challenge myself, having somebody outside of you look at what you're doing and be like, well, why are you doing that? Well, why aren't you doing this? And having somebody who can kind of question you a little bit is such an important thing to make you really clear about walking through this life intentionally. So the two areas of community and making sure you have community during your personal growth is to make sure that you're supported, whether that's through hiring a coach, through groups or organizations that support you and give you different perspective, because really that's what community is for, is it's to help you see what you're doing from a different perspective. When we only have our perspective to go off of and we don't have somebody challenging us, we kind of stay in the same mentality, and that's not growth to stay in the same place. So this is your sign to let yourself be supported and to get you a bruiser in your life who's going to be somebody who loves you and cares about you and wants you to do your best and asks you to make sure that the way you're doing things is the way you're supposed to be doing things and the right way for you to see the success you desire to see in doing it. Number 2, your energy walks into the room before you do. Before anybody has a chance to get to know you, your energy is speaking loud and clear. It was brought to my attention this weekend that some people find my energy intimidating, which is something that is totally threw me off because I was like, what? What do you mean? And they're like, well, it's an energy of confidence. And I'm like, huh. But sometimes that can come off as closed off. And so I've had to be really intentional about thinking about how is my energy speaking before me? When we're closed off and our energy is really close to our body, or we've been going through a lot and our energy is really heavy, other people can feel that and they may be drawn to help us. They may be pushed away from us because they don't want to deal with it. They may be intimidated by you. And so like for me, I've had to be really intentional about, okay, how do I open my energy? How do I make myself more approachable? What are things that are useful or helpful in the process of thinking of what creates energy? When we're in a bad mood, we have negative, low energy. It feels heavy. It feels heavy in our physical body and in our heart and our head. When we are lighter and we've taken care of our shit and taken care of ourselves, we feel lighter physically. We feel lighter in our head. We feel lighter in our heart. So you can do that through being intentional about your mindset. Are you approaching the day with gratitude? Is there somebody you need to forgive? How are you being kind to yourself and being kind to others? That's spreading love and joy. One of my favorite techniques for confidence and for just making your energy big is I want you to think for a second about what your personal power color would be. What color is your personal power? So for me, mine is yellow. So when I think of expanding on my personal power, I envision this little yellow light in my heart. And with each breath, I let that yellow light grow. And yours might be a different color. Yours might be green or purple or like a vibrant orange. But you're going to allow that color with each breath to grow stronger and bolder through you, through your body, through your arms, up into your head, all the way down to your feet, until if you looked into a mirror that only showed that light, your whole body would be lit up with that light. And then you're going to go and allow that energy to push out and around you. So you'd be like a little bubble of your personal power light. And if you want to take it even a step further and you're nervous about something and you're going to walk into a room, I want you to envision attaching that energy to all 4 corners of the room. I want you to envision that energy just taking up that entire space. When our energy is further away from our body, people can feel it, they know what to expect, and they feel empowered by it or comforted in it. So your job is to think about your energy when you're coming in a room, the energy of which you're approaching things, the intention behind how you're approaching something. That's going to be a game changer. And lastly, the questions that you're asking yourself or the questions that other people are asking you. Again, you can't grow if everything stays the same. And even if things are feeling good, it's really important to really ask yourself, what am I doing and why? Am I actually where I can be, or is there anything holding me back? What are the stories I'm telling myself that are keeping me small or stuck? Your brain will answer any question you ask it. So the better questions that you can find to encourage your growth, like, what am I afraid of? What happens if I end up in that successful spot? I realized over the weekend that I had a story. One of the reasons that I'm not more successful is I'm afraid it will take time away from my children. I'm afraid that being successful will make me not a good mom. And that's really important to me. That's a core value of mine, is to be a good mother and to have good relationship with my kids. So it was a story I was telling myself that if I become too successful, I won't have time for them, or I'll be traveling too much, or I won't be the same mom because I'll be burnout or whatever that is. So we can like reflect and ask ourselves the questions of like, what is it that I'm afraid of happening? Like, if I were to reach that, what would that look like? And this is going to help shape things for you, because at the end of the day, you have to be willing to face your own issues. You have to be willing to face your own blocks. And you have to ask yourself the question, if you're not where you want to be, why? Why are you not where you want to be? What happens? We're never stuck. Sometimes we're just afraid to tell the truth. And sometimes we're afraid that the truth will make us vulnerable, or the truth will make it hard for us to make choices, or will feel scary to make choices that are based on that truth. So your job is to ask the right questions. Explore what you're really afraid of. What would it look like if you were already there? What blocks are along the way? And asking yourself better questions to further where you want to be and where you are going. I think that's something that's not really talked enough about, is that we get comfortable in the way we're living. And even though we're not happy, we're comfortable. And comfort breeds stagnancy. It breeds feeling stuck, because a lot of times our soul will be like, no, you're supposed to go to the next level. And then we're over here like, well, I can't. For what reason? Why? Why can't you? Why can't you have the life you want? What would happen if you might be uncomfortable for a minute and then it would eventually level out? Like, the stories we tell ourselves actually get bigger and bigger and bigger as we allow them to stay present. So when we start dissecting them off the bat, it helps us break down our whys, our reasons we're doing things. And don't you want to know the reason you're doing things? Don't you want to know the reason you're not doing things? It's all in there. We just have to ask the right questions to pull it out. So challenge yourself. Think about your community and think about your energy before you're walking in a room, because these are all important parts of personal growth and they're not talked about enough. So I hope this was helpful. I know this is a quick episode, but I've got some incredible interviews coming up for you guys, and I'm so excited. Make sure to share this with a buddy if you found it helpful. And as always, I love you. I'm working on growing this podcast to its full potential this year. If you feel this was valuable, I'd love for you to share or leave me a positive review. Share with somebody who needs to hear it, screenshot and tag me on Instagram, and make sure you keep an eye out for my latest book, Rock Your Comeback, The Down-to-Earth Guide to Reclaiming Your Power. Hoping to have it in your hands soon. I'd love to connect with you, so make sure to give me a follow on Instagram or TikTok at NicholeEaton.xo. Thanks for listening to the Rock Your Soul podcast. I hope you're feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to take on the world. Now go step back into your power. The world's been waiting for you.